We'll call the meeting to order. I'd like to begin by acknowledging that we are in Treaty 1 territory in the traditional homeland of the Métis Nation. I'll introduce the panel members. First, to the far left is Laurie Davidson, Brent McIntyre to my left, and the assistant is Ryan Valderrama, and the administrative assistant is Ellen Robo. We'll be hearing applications for revision of assessment roll in accordance with the Municipal Act. The matters for which a revision is requested have been described in each application, and we'll limit discussions to those matters. The statements that applicants or the assessor make at this hearing are sworn testimony. Anyone speaking to the matter must be sworn in. Be advised that comparisons of assessment of properties are not considered evidence of market value by the Board of Revision. The Board of Revision is appointed annually by Council and is independent of it and the City Administration. It makes its decisions on the basis of the evidence provided at this hearing and issues a written order that will be mailed to all parties as soon as possible. Please note that the Board's decision with respect to an application may be appealed to the Manitoba Municipal Board if the matter pertains to assessed value or classification, or the Court of Queen's Bench if the matter pertains to application of exemption from taxation. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included with the Board order. With respect to the hearing process, I will confirm the matters to be addressed with each applicant following the swearing in. We will then have the assessor's testimony followed by questions that the applicant may have, and then the applicant's testimony followed by questions. Each side will have an opportunity to summarize if they wish. Once all the evidence about an application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave. The process will repeat for each item on the docket today. The session will close after the applications have been heard, and the Board will deliberate in private and make its decisions. You will receive the order by registered mail as soon as possible. As information, all public hearings are live streamed, recorded, and will be part of the public record. Please put your phones on silent, and if you could swear them in, please. Oh, already did. Most people yesterday.
Please state your full name.
Ryan Valderrama.
And you swear to be able to bear present the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God? Thank you. Please state your full name.
Jared Story.
And you swear to be able to bear present the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
First property on the agenda today is 601 Osborne Street. We've got liability, taxation, and the amount of assessed value, and classification of property. Are you challenging all three of them today?
We are assessed value, to be certain. And classification, there's no exempt portion here. It should be exempt. It would be seniors housing. Although, hold on one second. I know that Manitoba Housing wholesale tried classification on all the appeals. So
You know you're going to have to sign them off then, eh?
What's that?
You'll have to sign them off if you're not.
Yeah. Okay. There's no exempt portion. And it should be exempt because it's under the purview of the helping the elderly and
So you are going to be challenging that part?
Yeah.
So you're going for classification or liability to taxation?
it should be classification. So it
Classification?
Should be, just check. Sorry, it did not occur to me. There's no exempt. Oh no, I'm sorry. No, not liability. It's under G grant, so that's correct. That is. But I do know that I've run into this once or twice before, where Manitoba Housing has just wholesale. They've checked classification, but there's nothing to check here. It's granted, so we're okay.
So you're just assessed value?
Just the amount of value, yes.
If you can sign off on the other two then, please.
Like you want him to withdraw those points?
Yeah, he's going to withdraw them. I don't want them showing up again.
There's more application with the last one on the docket.
That is Edgeland, and that's Manitoba Housing as well, I believe. To understand, let me just check. Okay. Yeah, Manitoba Housing, same thing. Just double check the classification. And they're granting exempt as well. So we have to withdraw that.
You're doing both at the same time?
And you just need to see.
Okay.
And the date.
December 19th?
Yeah.
Now that we've got the business end of it out of the way. 601 Osborne. Ryan, when you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First property on the docket has a file number of 19-3686. Has a roll number of 12011112000. It is located at 601 Osborne Street. We're dealing with the roll year of 2020, using reference date of April 1st, 2018. The assessed value is $12,459,000. The property is Res Apartments or Res App. It has one building, 18 stories, actual and effective year built of 1973. It has 205 suites with 32 outdoor parking. The zoning is residential multifamily with a land area of 58,490 square feet, a planned area of 8,882 square feet, and a gross floor area of 112,933 square feet. On page 3 are aerial photos for the subject property. And page 4 is the income valuation summary. Again, it has 204 total suites, total units, with an average monthly rent per unit of $627.02. Has a vacancy rate of 1.8%, an expense ratio of 56.86%, giving it a net operating income of $650,256. Using the capitalization rate of 5.3%, the capitalized income is $12,268,981. On page 5 are some rent comparables for the subject property. They are all ranging from $1,033 up to $1,086 average monthly rent per unit. And right below it is the map of the subject property and the comparable rents. On page 6 is the capitalization rates, comparing it to some external sources. And on page 7 is the capitalization rate evidence, particularly on the multifamily. We have 5 sales. And I'd just like to read it. The following is a sample of actual sales that took place during the reference period. The purpose for showing these individual capitalization rates is to illustrate the accuracy of the model and substantiate the model-derived capitalization rates. They are not meant to be comparable specific to the subject property. So, the net operating income has been developed through stabilizing owner-reported income and expense information. The capitalization rates have been derived by dividing properties' net operating income by its sale price. So there are 5 in the multi-family area. The first one is 191 Roach Street. It has sale date of February 2018 with a sale price of $3.61 million. Has 36 suites, effective year built of 1971, and a cap rate of 4.84%. The next one has 394 Talbot Avenue. Was sold in December 2017 with a sale price of $770,000. Has 11 suites with effective year built of 1965 and a cap rate of 4.03%. Third one is located at 285 Maxwell Place. It was sold in June 2017 for $2,225,000 with 23 suites and an effective year built of 1960. It has a cap rate of 4.4%. The fourth one is located at 277 Langside Street. Is sold in January 2018 for $3 million. It has 47 suites, an effective year built of 1974, and a cap rate calculated at 6.09%. And the last one that we have is 333 Ward. It was sold in January 2016 for $18 million with 103 suites and an effective year built of 2006 and has a cap rate of 5%. And this is the same with the other properties that are appealed, Mr. Chair. And on page 9 is some information from CMHC. And beginning of page 10 to the last page is the 2017 income and expense information for the subject property. And that's my presentation, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Story, any questions?
Yes, okay. Thank you very much. Okay, so this is 601 Osborne Street. Now, this is commonly known as Fred Tipping Place. Are you aware of that?
Yes.
Okay, and that's, just so we're all on the same page, that's subsidized social housing for senior citizens, correct?
It's owned by Manitoba Housing, so I'm not sure if it's seniors.
That's right. Okay. Have you visited this property?
No, I did not.
Okay. Have you looked at a photo of this property?
Exterior photos, yes.
Exterior. Did you notice that large common room that's kind of on Osborne that's typical of retirement homes? We call it a common area. You see a number of those today. Just want to point out that that's atypical from the standpoint of a traditional apartment building. Is that correct?
I wouldn't say atypical. I'm not.
Okay.
I haven't.
Okay, that's fine. But we are effectively taking a building that is that was built for the purpose of social housing, particularly for seniors in 1973, and for the purpose of this exercise, we're attempting to determine what a willing buyer and willing seller would pay for it, as though it were an asset that we're performing on the free and open market. Correct? That's the purpose of this exercise today. Is that correct?
We are looking for market value in this.
Market value. Okay. Okay. Now, okay. Are you familiar with limited dividend agreements?
No.
Okay. I'll get to that in my presentation. Now, the actual year built is 1973, and the effective year is 1973. So would that lead us to believe that no permitted work has been done to substantially alter or extend the effective useful economic life of this asset?
No.
Pardon me?
None. Yeah. There's no significant renovations that would alter the effective year built.
Right. And the suites are approximately 500 square feet, and they're built in a sort of Spartan utilitarian manner. Is that correct?
554 according to our records. That's the gross floor area per unit.
Okay.
On page 5.
Okay. And would you say that's smaller than a typical apartment building?
It's smaller because, yeah, it's smaller. Yeah.
Because retirement homes generally tend to have smaller suites. Are you aware that there's no AC in the building?
No, I'm not aware.
If you look at a photo or drive past it, you can see that every unit has a window-mounted air conditioning unit. Okay. Now, going to your income value summary on page 4, we list 170 bachelor units and 34 one-bedroom units. Is that a desirable suite mix in the eyes of the market?
Again, it depends on the market that they're looking at. I mean, in this case, bachelors, there's still a market for bachelors. If we're going to expand outside of the seniors market.
Right. Okay. So, in the city's 2020 valuation guide to income-producing properties, one of the impediments towards value is listed by the city as a poor suite mix. Would you say this is not a poor suite mix in your mind?
In my opinion, no.
Fair enough. Now, the vacancy rate is 1.8%. Is that modeled?
Yes, it is modeled.
Okay. Is the cap rate modeled?
Yes, they're all modeled.
Everything's modeled, and you didn't override anything in this workup?
No, I did not.
Okay. And the model doesn't take into account social housing, seniors housing, no economic profit since 1973, limited dividend agreements. The model doesn't capture any of those site-specific issues with this asset, does it?
Well, if I look at page 5, my rent comparables, it looks like it's way below market. So it looks like it has captured some of the site-specific rent issues on this.
Do you think, excuse me, do you think a next prudent purchaser who's going to acquire this asset and reposition it competitively in the market would see history of this subject? Would it give them a sense of confidence or a sense of general uneasiness in your mind?
I am not sure. I don't know. I can speak to a prudent buyer or a potential buyer.
Okay. We are talking about market value. The definition is the agreed upon amount that a self-motivated purchaser would offer and a willing seller would accept. So, okay. Now, in terms of your rent comps, again, this is social housing, so all of the rents are subsidized. It's very difficult to figure out what it might be. But I will suggest that all of these comps are superior. Would you agree with that?
Oh yeah, I agree.
They are, okay. That's fine. Now, in terms of the cap rates, let's look at the brokers table first on page 6. Multifamily, this is a high-rise. Would you consider this investment grade?
Which page are we on?
Page 6, the broker studies regarding capitalization rates.
I don't see any investment grade.
Okay, so here's my question.
Phrase.
Collier, CBRE, and Cushman and Wakefield. The inputs that they use to derive these tables are based on investment grade properties. Is that correct?
Again, I don't see anything that indicates investment grade based on what I have here. I'm not sure. I don't.
Okay, that's okay. Okay, let's go to your cap rate evidence then, please. Page 7. Now, 191 Roach, 394 Talbot, 285 Maxwell. Are you aware that those were all purchased with the intention to renovate?
No.
Okay, now, okay. An asset that's purchased for the intention to renovate, do you think that's an appropriate input for the purposes of developing a cap rate study? Do you think those inputs are appropriate?
They are appropriate based on the IAAO standards.
The IAAO standards, okay. Now, would you not agree that when a purchaser purchases an asset that's underperforming with the interest of repositioning it, redeveloping it, they're actually buying the top end of an economic opportunity as opposed to an income stream in place? Is that not fair to say?
I'm not sure what their intent is.
Okay. Okay, that's fine. Now, page 9, you have the CMHC rental market report. How large is a bachelor suite by the CMHC standard?
I would assume whatever is standard in Winnipeg, because this is Winnipeg CMA, so it's an average, I would say.
Okay,
I'm not sure.
and we've established that our suites are based on the current utility and the historical utility as a retirement home. Is it safe to assume that our suites are much smaller than the average presented here by CMHC?
Without the areas in here, I'm not sure if they're below or even greater than the CMHCs.
Okay, those are my questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Grant, do you have any questions?
Would the cap rate be affected by the mix of suites?
It's based on the size of the building, age, and location. Those are the 3 parameters that, or characteristics.
So the mix of the suites is not taken into account?
Well, I'm not sure about the mix. No, I don't know. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Thanks.
Lori?
Thank you.
Just a little bit more elaboration on this mix of suites, since this is primarily a bachelor apartment.
Yes, ma'am.
When I look at the rent comps, your subject is average monthly rent of $627, and the others are higher, but they have other sizes of suites in it, like different mix. So is that average the average rent of all the suites, or just the bachelors in the building?
For the comp or for the subject?
No, for 1, 2, and 3.
The average monthly rent per unit is the average for all of the
Okay.
suites that are in there.
And I guess that carries through with the cap rate evidence that you have on page 7 as well, in that the cap rates, these don't necessarily have the same mix of suites as this
No,
building, which is essentially all bachelors.
that's correct, ma'am.
Were you able to find any samples that were primarily bachelors, which were in the private market?
Which were sold?
No, just that were, to get a better sense of whether the mix of the block impacts the rent.
The thing with the
Whether
way
a bachelor in an all-bachelor building, rent is different than a bachelor in a mixed building.
The thing with this one is it's a bit tricky because the majority of, or almost 80%, I would say, or 70%, is bachelor units for the subject property, and it's a bit tricky to find something in with a high-rise feature and within the same location, having more bachelor suites than any other units. So there could be in other areas, and there could be a different monthly rent, meaning they could be higher.
Okay.
But in this case, I restricted or chose within the area, and at the same time having the total units as my comparison to the subject property,
Okay, and just
which also reflects a lower average monthly rent for the subject property in comparison to the comparable.
okay, thank you very much for that. And just one really quick other question. The gross floor area, this is 554 for the suites. What is a typical bachelor? What is the square area in a typical bachelor
Very,
of this vintage, like in the 70s?
I'm not sure what the average is in terms of the bachelors. There could be 500 square feet. There could be lower or higher. I'm not sure. But,
Okay, all right, thank you very much.
thank you.
Brent, you had another
I
question?
have another question.
Yes, sir.
This is just sort of I'm a stickler for detail.
Yes, sir.
Page 1, you show 205 suites, yet
Mhm.
the rest of it shows 204.
Yes, I think it should be 204. It's pulling up something. I'm not sure where it's pulling the number from, but I think it should be 204.
204? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for pointing that out. I'll double check on that.
And I'm not going to have any questions, and I'm hoping that this deals, if we have any more housing, like, we can see that we've dealt with that already, okay?
Comment all, yes.
Because in a lot of cases like this, we end up just having to talk about cap rate. On with your presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Okay, 601 Osborne Street. This is again Fred Tipping Place, constructed in 1973 to provide subsidized housing for seniors in Winnipeg. Again, under a limited dividend agreement. Now it's for very forward as well for Manitoba housing. It's important to realize that when we look at some of these subsidized buildings, they're built in a utilitarian fashion. They're built in a way where the suites are more Spartan, and the funding generally is underwritten by the CMHC under what's called a limited dividend agreement that tends to run for 35 to 45 years. Now, those agreements run with the property, not the owner, and that's important to recognize that the rents, the potential what we'll call market rents for these assets will be suppressed for a period, and that's something that the city modeling doesn't necessarily take into account, but a purchaser certainly would. So I'm suggesting when we talk about social housing, we'll talk about an adjustment to the cap rate for all the properties on the docket where that's to which that social housing element pertains. We'll ask for a 50 basis point adjustment, and that will encompass the history of no economic profit. These are not-for-profits with subsidized rents. They're generally not. You can imagine if you have no economic rent for 50 years or so, you might end up with deferred maintenance. So all of this is captured in our upward adjustment to cap rate of 50 basis points. Okay, back to our subject. Fred Tipping Place, 1973. We've got an 18-story high-rise. It's the southwest corner of Osborne and Morley. That's it's right across from the Reuben Block, which is another troubled property that's been it's had a number of vacancy issues, and it's been in the news. So you're probably aware of that. So for the purposes of this report, the assessor is using a cap rate of 5.3%. We believe that that is aggressively low given the vintage and given the history of the subject. So we're instead applying a rate of 6.5%. Now this is based on our cap rate table that's on page 6. And as a general baseline for what we'll call regular assets that are performing in the market, we will bracket 1960 to 1979, and we'll apply a cap rate of 6%, barring any anomalies that require upward or downward adjustment. And again, we've added that 50 basis point adjustment to capture the realities of social housing. Now, if you come with me to page 7, that's my workout. You can see that we are effectively For the purpose of this assignment, we are accepting the assessor's potential gross market rents. Again, we don't have market rents in this building. We have subsidized rents. And if you look at what they actually are, they're usually less than half. In this case, they certainly are. And those are in there for illustrative purposes only. We've capitalized the potential vacancy at 1.8%, so we're in agreement with the assessor that that's a reasonable number to capitalize into perpetuity. It is important to recognize, though, that subsidized housing generally has very, very low vacancy based on the fact that it's rent geared to income and as can pay basis, so we have waiting lists as opposed to vacancy for the most part. But we are suspending some disbelief here and acting as though this were a market performing asset. So we are at the same rate on line 13 for the effective gross income, but we apply our actual expenses. Now the city's modeling 56.9% expense ratio. Our actuals, when we apply them to the model generated effective gross income, are 53.2. But if you look at that sort of highlighted, I suppose it's in black and white here, but line 32, you can see that our actual expenses far outpace our income. So we can see that this is a non-economic performing asset, and not only is there no economic profit, it's operating at a loss. So our NOI, based on the modeled potential gross market rent, with our actual expenses, is actually higher than the city. We're at $716,728, where the city's at $663,12. So the material difference here is that we're capitalizing with what we think is an appropriate cap rate of 6.5%, whereas the city used 5.3, which is probably typical of an apartment. Again, this is not an apartment, this is a senior's home. Giving us an indicated market value for 2020 at the April 1, 2018 reference date of $11,026,590. So we respectfully request that the board revise the 2020 realty assessment for red tipping place to $11,027.
11 million.
Oh, it's 11,000 would be great. $11,027,000. Thank you. Now, if you go to my appendix, you can see I've included some photos. These are from CTV News. In my research, I found that there's some concerns about the area. The residents are on the news talking about it, so you can see the little CTV News watermark. And you can see the general quality of that interior common area. And I would suggest that apartments don't generally have these large, they're often called social rooms, that are typical of retirement homes or seniors' residences. You can see we've got a shuffleboard here and a variety of different furniture and a bookshelf, and there's some older exercise equipment and such. So I've included that so you can get a sense of the quality of the interior. I've got some info from the Winnipeg Architecture Foundation talking about the building of this asset, and it was constructed between 72 and 74 for seniors. And then I was surprised to see that I generally think of South Osborne as a very good neighborhood, but in November of 15, this is where the residents say a man with a gun came into the apartment. And I was surprised to say that this resident said it's not the first time something has happened. They don't feel safe, and you don't want to bring your grandchildren. So I thought that was a bit alarming, but included it for context. Again, we are requesting $11,027,000, primarily based on the adjustment to the cap rate. Thank you very much.
Brian, any questions?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. In your subject stabilized on page 7,
Okay.
So the revenue is from our model generated parameters, correct?
Right, because when you have subsidized rents, if we use our actuals, we'd end up with a negative NOI. So it's difficult to value the income stream of an asset that's not. It's a not-for-profit. It's not an exercise in commerce or an venture in trade.
So the revenue is more reflective of what's going on in the market, correct?
I'm sorry.
That's why you agree with our model? It's typical of what's going on in the market?
I mean, generally what happens is the city will use a depressed version of CMHC, and I think that's an appropriate methodology generally for social housing. So, yeah, I think that's a reasonable approach, but I also think that we should use actual expenses and not just model the whole valuation summary. So yes, for this. For social housing, for subsidized rents, we have to look to what we'll call typical market. I think the city does a reasonable job of that, so we agree with you on that point. But if we are doing that, then it would be inappropriate to not approach the cap rate with that in mind. Right? When we recognize that this asset is its expenses are 27% higher than its income. Yeah, we'd be talking about highest and best use, and we're not talking about an asset that's generating revenue. So,
And speaking of cap rate, would you agree that our 5.3% was developed also based on the model, which is also in sync with our revenue and our expenses?
No, I think your cap rates are aggressively low for all multifamily this year. I think your cap rates don't capture the realities of.
Let him finish this question.
They don't capture the realities of social housing, and you've said here that you don't know whether it's appropriate or not to use redevelopment properties for the purpose of developing a cap rate study. That's just the municipal board has ruled decisively that that's not appropriate, and that's all valuation theory would recognize that you look at rents in place, you come to market value for an apartment. You don't look at an opportunity to reposition an asset because that amounts to a discount rate or an internal rate of return or a financial rate of return. That's not the same thing as an appropriate cap rate. So, no, I don't think your cap rates are reflective of market behavior in the least.
I'm just saying it's model derived. If you would know that our cap rate is model derived, which is also in sync with our revenue and our
So you're suggesting that...
I'm not saying that,
So you're suggesting that...
develop differently.
Okay, so CMHC develops a rental table. So you're not really modeling that. You're taking it from CMHC, correct?
No, I'm just attaching the CMHC report, which indicates
So
some of
CMHC
what's
has no
going on.
bearing on your model?
No,
Really?
it's the market, whatever we receive from the market through INEs,
Okay.
or income and expense, I shouldn't say that.
I am not necessarily following the logic, but we can agree to disagree. I don't think the cap rates are appropriate.
Okay, that's all the questions I have, Mr. Chairman.
Lori,
I have no questions, thank you.
Brent,
I have one.
go ahead.
Page 1, I think you're missing something
Typo on the
summary.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, it's 204 suites.
But you're also, on this page, you're missing the bachelor units.
Yeah, it's...
And on page 2, they total 205.
Right, it should be 204. Typically, when we see a 1-2 bedroom, that's a caretaker suite.
Okay.
So we don't generally put that into our calculation, but it's the page 2 breakdown is correct. 136 bachelors, 68 bedrooms.
Okay, that's good.
Looking at, only because now that you've asked the question, they're going to come back at you.
But
You didn't work these numbers backwards, did you? You didn't start with the 12 million and work backwards using the cap rate?
no, I did not.
On to you. Would you have you put any of the numbers together with the actual to see what the actual value would have come up with?
It's negative. You can see you end up with a negative NOI. And the reason that we couldn't do that is because you end up with a negative value. You start to talk about highest and best use. And we recognize that it's social housing. It's not a bona fide income stream. So we're doing an exercise to say, well, if this were an asset that we're performing, perhaps these would be the rents based on what the CMHC is saying the market average would be. But we have to recognize our own real expenses, and then we also have to recognize that an investor would look at the history of this property and say, okay, the suites are tiny. There's no air conditioning in this building. It was developed in a utilitarian way for social housing, and it hasn't achieved any economic profit for the past 50 years. So frankly, I think a 6.5 cap is sort of light, but this is our methodology.
So how did you adjust your expenses down to 53% when you were running 117?
Right, because that's 53%. That's our actual expenses when divided by the effective gross income that's modeled. So that's what it is. But if you look at the line
Effective gross income.
yeah, if you look at line 13,
Yeah.
that's the actual. That's what this thing's actually achieving. So 703, 707, 708.
That's what it's actually received.
That's actual, yeah. And then if you go down to the NOI for 15, 16, and 17, you can see that it's negative. So it's losing 195 in 15, it's losing 72 in 16, and it's losing 95 in 17. So if you use the actuals, you end up with an average net loss of roughly $121,000 over the past 3 years. So, and that's because it's subsidized. So that's just part and parcel of social housing. So our methodology for these is to take the market rents with actual expenses. Now that being said, to have this asset compete competitively, presumably there will be you'd have to redevelop the whole property effectively, and your expenses would likely go up. This is a competitive market, so you might go as high as 60% while we're using our actuals. And that's how we determine the value.
If this was sold on the open market today,
Yeah.
do you think they would get that for a building that's run down?
No, I don't. I think that they would. I think we've seen a number of older buildings. I think the assessors use some comps here, like Timber Creek has purchased a number of buildings in this market for the purpose of redeveloping them. Now they buy them at a deep discount, but they also buy them at a very low cap rate, and that's why we don't use those for an income place. Somebody would look at this and say, we have to redo all of the suites effectively. I would assume that they would probably get rid of that whole common lounge. Those are not typical. That's a higher maintenance fee that likely doesn't drive any value to the rents. If they did, you'd see more of them, I think. So do I think somebody would purchase this for $11 million? In my opinion, no. But for the purpose of this exercise, this is the value we came to.
Do the bachelor suites have kitchenettes in them?
I think, yeah, excuse me, yes, I wasn't able to verify, but in the past I have been able to with seniors residents. There will often be floors where there's a large communal kitchen and then very, very small, what we're calling bachelor suites here, we would likely call studio apartments in the actual market, so it's a bit misleading. And occasionally if you have people who have memory care and things like that, you don't have stoves in their suites. Things like windows, we don't have easy access and egress on windows. We don't have balconies in seniors' homes, so they are their own class of multifamily. They're not the same as apartments, and we have to recognize that somewhere. So we do that by adjusting 50 basis points up. I think that's conservative, but that's the methodology we use.
But you're making your adjustment a little bit on the cap rate, but you're not making any adjustments for the rest of the building on its condition, on the rent, on whether it's an investment property. I mean,
right.
Would an investor buy a building that's got that number of bachelor suites?
The suite mix would send an investor running, quite frankly. But they might look at it, if the discount were deep enough, then you might look at it as a redevelopment opportunity. So but it's not. It's serving a social function. It's not.
So what's the best way to do an evaluation on this property?
I think this is probably the most reasonable way to do it, but I was certainly conservative on the cap rate. Perhaps a higher cap rate is warranted here. I could see that argument.
But you haven't visited this?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
You went in the suites?
Oh, not inside. No, we don't tend to go inside to residentials. But I have been outside. I was outside yesterday, actually. So I had a good look at it. You can see there's no air conditioning in this building. Not any central air on a building of this size.
And you haven't visited it either, have you?
No.
I think we have to send all our assessors and our accountants into these buildings to actually visit them. especially these ones.
It would be great to. I mean, if it's a little difficult when it's a private residence.
But if you're doing evaluations on these places,
I agree, it would be more
I'm
illustrative.
not giving you guys a lecture on the business, but
Well, it's kind of a tricky thing to do too, to inspect multi-units such as this, and at the same time, there's different people
It
living.
becomes tricky when you have to get, first you have to get the owner to agree, and then you have to get somebody,
Each,
other private
tenants.
residents to
the
get.
owner always agrees, and I'm sure the owner would let you in because you're working for
Yeah,
him.
the owner would generally, but to get.
And he's got the law on his side to get in, so don't give me the excuse that you can't get into it.
But getting a photo of somebody's private residence is not necessarily as easy as you might think.
Gentlemen, I'll leave that one alone. I should not be doing it. Let's move on to the next one. Number 1, Bolton Day. Just amount of assessed value. When you are ready, Ryan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The next one is a file number 19-2722. It has a roll number of 12074160700. It is located at 1 Bolton Bay. We're dealing with the roll year of 2020 with a reference date of April 1st, 2018. The total assessed value is $11,499,000, and we have split classification or split liability on this one, Mr. Chair. The first one is school tax exempt with an assessed value of $10,130,000. The second liability is taxable, which has an assessed value of $1,369,000. It is a residential apartment with 3 buildings with 1 to 6 stories, with an actual and effective year built of 1979, 186 number of suites, and an outdoor parking of 102 stalls. The zone is residential multifamily with a land area of 132,020 square feet, a planned area of 22,668 square feet, and a gross floor area of 119,688 square feet. On page 3 are the aerial photos of the subject property. On page 4 is the income valuation summary. Again, we have 186 total units with an average monthly rent per unit of $575. It has a vacancy rate of 2.4%. An expense ratio of 54.1%, giving it a net operating income of $574,942. It has a using the capitalization rate of 5%, the capitalized income is $11,498,840, and it has an adjustment, a downward adjustment of $1,369,000, and also a cost of a land adjustment of $1,369,000, which is the land area, the value of the land over and above the exempted allowable land area of 2 acres. On page 5 are some rent comparables. They are all ranging from $542 up to $1,169 average monthly rent per unit. And right below it is the map of the subject property and comparable rents. And on pages 6 and 7 are the capitalization rate charts. On page 9 is the CMHC rental market report. From page 10 to page 14 is the 2017 income and expense information for the subject property. And that's my presentation, Mr. Chair.
Questions, Mr. Story?
Okay, so just so we're clear, we're dealing with an apartment side, which is the final retirement home, and then some excess land that the city is suggesting ought to have a value of $1,369,000. Is that correct?
Mr. Chair, if I may, it's not an excess land per se, but it is the value of the land over and above the 2 acres exemption, allowable exemption from the Act.
Okay. So there's an allowable amount of land that's exempted, and this
It's
is
2 acres, and that's over and above.
Is this land developable?
Again, Mr. Chair, it is based on the what is prescribed by the law, and it's over and above the 2 acres.
Here's why I'm asking. Let me ask you this. How did you come to that value for this land?
we based it on our parameters, and we subtracted it from the apartment side to
Just the actual number, how did you calculate that number?
it's based on the market rate, which was able to attach for some reason.
Is there any evidence in this brief that shows how you came to that number?
No.
No evidence, okay. Okay, so that's fine, we'll deal with that in a moment. Now let's get back to the apartment side. So this is, again, this is a, not a fully subsidized, but a limited subsidy retirement home, is that correct?
I don't know. I did check, or I haven't inspected it.
Okay, it's called Haven 2, it's right next to the Capillon Barracks. Are you aware of that?
I know the Capillon Barracks.
The Capillon Barracks is going to be a construction zone for the next 20 or so years. Do you think that's a positive or a negative?
Again, I cannot speak to any hypotheticals of this case,
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
And you've not visited the site?
As mentioned, I did not.
Okay. Now in 18, the assessment was 8.7%, so this represents an increase of 31%. Is there anything that would, in your mind, that would give rise to that sort of increase for an asset such as this?
Again, I don't know what entails in the 8.7 million or whatever the previous assessment was. I'm not even sure if it was appealed or a decision, or it was, again, this is a new reassessment cycle.
Gotcha. Okay, so you haven't visited, but have you looked at a photo of the setback?
I have some photos attached.
Yep. So you notice that there's a large, what we'll call a social area between two residential towers, correct?
On page 3 at the bottom, yes, correct.
Page 3. Okay, so you see it. Okay. Wonderful. Now, are you aware of the size of these suites?
No, I'm not.
Okay, so you're not aware that a bachelor is 320 square feet, and what they're calling a one-bedroom is 430 square feet.
No,
You're not aware of that, okay. Do you think that's typical of the market or atypical?
again, I'm not sure. It could vary.
Okay, and there's no basement area, so that means that all storage would have to be in suite, correct? Or off-site?
I don't know.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you now, we've established that the bachelors are 320 square feet, the one-bedrooms are 430, and we have 73 bachelor suites and 131 bedrooms. Again, is that an ideal suite mix, or is that a suite mix that the market would see as a problem?
I'm not sure. I don't know.
Okay. Have you checked now, sorry, on the income value summary, this is all modeled, is that correct?
Yes, they're all modeled right.
All modeled, okay. Have you checked the average monthly rent per unit against the financials?
Yes, I did.
You did? And you think it's appropriate?
I went with our model on this one.
Okay. But you're aware that then if you check it, the actual average monthly rent is $523, correct?
Again, I went with the average monthly rent based on the model, which is based on the market.
And again, I'm looking at the cost property 40T, that's the calculation for the land, and it's simply a row of zeros, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Now you've used a cap rate of 5%. So again, the model is not capturing the suite size, the suite mix, the partial subsidy, or the current use as a retirement home. Is that correct?
I'm not sure if it's a requirement of having it.
Okay. You're not sure if it's a retirement home?
I didn't inspect it, so.
Okay. All right. Rent comps. Would you say that these are all superior?
Superior in terms of what? In terms of
Your rent comparables on page 5.
rent? In terms of rent?
Yeah.
Well, the three of them are higher.
Right. Okay. Did you choose these rent comps, or these derived by the model?
No, I chose these.
You chose them. Okay. So then you're aware that 1080 Henderson, those are fully renovated, full balconies, and they provide tenants a shuttle service once or twice a week for groceries. Are you aware of that?
No.
1080 Henderson, no. Now, 70 Gary, that's interesting. That's sort of what we talked about. That's next to the Hotel Fort Gary Place, and that's one of the ones that was purchased for renovation by Timber Creek. It also has a pool and a restaurant. Now, that rent of $542, is that pre-renovation or post-renovation?
It's, no, it doesn't say, so I'm not sure.
Okay. Serena Towers, 1335 Henderson, I know as well. That has a shuttle, 2 shuttles actually, it goes to Sobeys and to Safeway. And it has a pool, correct?
Again, I don't know if there's...
And underground parking? Are you aware of that?
No.
Okay, and your fourth comp is in Windsor Park. And that's Apple Park Plaza. That's Archibald and Curran Park. Underground parking, and then it says the penthouse suites have a private gym. So do you think that those average monthly rents will be driven up by the fact that these are, they've got better amenities and they're all fully rented?
Well, looking at the average monthly rent compared to the subject, they're higher than this.
Okay, that's fine. Now we'll keep the cap rate rest of my argument carried forward. Okay, CMHC information here. Now again, CMHC doesn't capture anything that would be retirement home, does it?
It doesn't say anything here.
Right, and they don't. So they say that a bachelor for something in this vintage is what, 681 square feet, correct? Yeah, so.
Nope, it says there.
70, yeah, so, oh, I'm sorry, it should be
732.
732. So 732 square feet is a bachelor, but we're calling a bachelor 320 square feet. So this wouldn't apply here, would it?
300 square feet? I don't see the 300 square feet here.
Oh, that's in my information when we analyze the property. Okay, thanks. Those are my questions.
Brent?
I have no question.
Lori?
In terms of the land that is taxable because it's in excess of 2 acres, how many acres is this? One that's valued at 1.4 million, the amount greater than 2 acres on the property.
That's about 44,900 square feet, which is within one.
It's just over 1 acre.
Yeah, within 1 acre.
Okay, and what's the value of an acre of land in that area?
For
Next to Cafe,
res-
around there?
within this area, usually on the left side, I think if we go a little bit south, it's more of commercial, industrial kind of properties or type of properties. They would value around north of 500,000 or more, maybe even 750 an acre, 750,000 an acre in this area. But for residential, for smaller lots, probably something more than that. Because usually the 500,000 or 750,000 in this area is more for industrial, and they are sold bigger in terms of land size that they're selling. They're not just being sold in maybe 1 acre or half an acre. So that's why the value would be a little bit smaller per acre in terms of the industrial type of properties. So for residential usually, or apartments or res apps, or they are usually smaller. They're sold smaller.
Okay, and what's the condition of this property?
It's average. We don't see any below average on this one. We don't. Yeah, our effective year built is 1979.
So no real
just
investments in
none
it that would change the effective year?
to make it newer. No.
Yeah, okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So, I got it. You said there's 44,900 square feet of extra land on this
Well,
property?
it's over and above the allowable 2 acres of exempt land area. It's not necessarily the excess land that's
But
that
it's
you can
after,
cut and
it's 2 acres after the buildings, correct?
2 acres, yes.
After the building.
Yes, that's allowable,
And
yeah.
how much is the building taking up? 119,000, correct?
22,668. Building
Gross
footprint.
floor area is 119. 22,668 is the plan area for the building.
That's the building footprint.
And that's both buildings, all three
Yes.
buildings.
Mhm.
How much parking was required with this type of building?
It says here there's 102 for parking.
And was that the
I'm not sure if it's
Full
required, but
allotment?
they're occupying 102
apartment,
stalls.
apartment block has to have parking, doesn't it?
Yes, that's correct. 102 stalls in this case, in this property.
Doesn't look like excess parking for that small property. Are you,
Sorry?
so, is it the front lawn?
The parking?
Or the front lawn, is that the excess land?
It's not necessarily excess land, sir. It's more of what's allowable and what's over and above the allowable
But-
as indicated by the law.
But to put a value on it,
Mhm.
we've got to see if it's,
But we subtracted it also on the income valuation, so it's not double dipping, if that's what you are trying to.
I never said that.
No, I mean, sorry, sir, but if it's the concept of being valued twice, then it's not, because we have subtracted some value on the net income side, or on the apartment side, sorry.
Where did you take that off?
It's the minus 1,369,000.
Over here. So you took it off
Page 4,
of,
sorry.
you took it off the non-taxable side and put it onto the taxable side.
It's because of what's allowed by the law.
And you said it's approximately 2 acres, but 2 acres of
Exempt.
exempt, so they've got 1 extra acre that's not exempt.
That's correct.
And you're saying that 1 acre of land in that area is worth $1,369,000.
Which was also subtracted, yes, that's correct.
But you didn't give us any evidence on that.
No, for some reason it didn't attach, so yeah, no, it's not here.
Okay. I'll move your presentation.
Thank you very much. Okay. 1 Bolton Bay. So this is referred to as Haven 2. It's called partial social housing. It's a limited subsidy retirement home. Built in the 70s. It's the northeast corner of Keniston and Bolton. And again, it's right across from the Capitol Barracks. The total gross floor area is approximately 119,668 square feet. And we have 69 bachelor suites and 113 one-bedroom suites, but again, these are what we call pocket suites or suites. They're not typical of market bachelors or one-bedrooms. There are 102 outdoor parking stalls as being recorded. The site is rectangular in shape, and according to the City of Winnipeg Property and Taxation Department records, it is approximately 3 acres, and it's zoned RM/FM for multifamily. Okay. Now, for the purposes of this assignment, the assessment department has used a 5% cap rate. We are suggesting that a building of this vintage ought to carry a cap rate of 6.25. I believe that's conservative, but this is what we've used. And we've come to an indicated market value. It's sort of complicated, so I'll explain this. For the apartment portion, we're at $6,617,221, and for the land value, we're suggesting it's $566,300. I provided comps, provided calculations, and I'll show you how we've arrived at that. Let's deal with that first. So on my page, we're not numbered. We got cut off. Wonderful. Well, this is the page here. It says 1 Bolton taxable lands. Should be about the 4th or 5th page in. There we go.
Yeah.
Okay, the city is suggesting, now, this is important, this land is not developable in any way, shape, or form. I understand the assessor's position, there's some legislation that says that there's a certain amount that's exempt under the law. and then there's a certain amount that must be taxed, but the exercise then is to determine what the actual value of that land is. So I'm suggesting that it's 43,560, so that's roughly 1.1 acres, just north of 1 acre. The city is suggesting that undevelopable land ought to carry a value of $1,369,000. I'm saying that is not supported by any calculation by the assessor, nor is it supported by the market. So I went and I found 3 comps. Now these are all actual comps that are developable, that were purchased for the purpose of developing to something else. Now they're varying sizes, but I have a rate between $10.17 a square foot to $15.73 a square foot. I put the most weight on 1201 St. Anne's at $13 per square foot, and I've used that rate to come to my value of $566,300. And again, I think that's conservative. This is not developable land, but for the purpose of the exercise, we do have to put some value on the legislative land that's outside of the exemption. So, and just a note, in 16, the BOR decision was for $11.50 per square foot. In 18, it was for $13 per square foot. And in 2020, I'm going to request that $13 per square foot is still appropriate based on the comps that I've submitted. And I will point out again that the department has provided the ratepayer no information as to how they came to that rate. So I think that ought to be disregarded. Okay, now talked about retirement homes, talked about social housing. This is an interesting property because it has a sort of large cabin type structure in the middle they call the common room. They've got a person in there who gives haircuts, and they have a little library, and it's a typical common area of a retirement home. It's a limited subsidy, so we are able to use the rent in place. So if you follow me to page 7, I can show you how we've developed the value for this cycle. Our potential market gross rents are $1,167,250. Our vacancy sort of oscillates between 1.5% and 3%, giving us an average of 3.4. But again, we're capitalizing this into perpetuity. We're recognizing the realities that there are going to be points where there's higher vacancy. There's going to be points when there's lower vacancy. So in order to stabilize it over the economic life of the asset, we're accepting the assessment department's 2.4%. That seems reasonable. Now we also pick up some revenue by way of laundry and parking, and we've captured that. There's also some miscellaneous income there. So the effective gross income is $1,173,860. The assessor is at $1,252,598, which is a model number. We have applied our actual expenses. Now this is where it gets sort of interesting. Our expenses are much higher than the model. We're at 64.8% of our effective gross income, where the city is modeling 54.1%. I think that may have to do with the fact that the city is generally trying to use the parameters of an apartment building, whereas this is a different asset, as I think we've established today. So the net operating income that we come to is $413,576. The assessor's at $574,942. The assessor, of course, is applying an aggressively low cap rate of 5% for this asset, and we're suggesting that a 6.25 is more appropriate, given the effectively based on the vintage. So once we capitalize that NOI with a 6.25 cap, we come to an indicated market value for 2020 at the April 1, 2018 reference date of $6,617,221. So I've showed you I've used a rate of $566,300 for that land that ought to be taken off the main holding, giving us an indicated market value for the apartment portion of $6,050,921, and we respectfully request a rounded value for this assessment cycle of $6,051,000. I've included some photos, so you can get this is the excess land in question. So this is not land that can be developed, and if you looked at mandatory setbacks and how close you could build to the actual building, this is green space for the benefit of the residents. I think there's no real development potential here, but again, I understand this is a legislative issue, but we do have to come to a value, and I think I've shown that appropriately. Here's a little cabin space.
Yeah, can you give us those numbers again, because it's not what you have written down. What did you change?
One second.
Did you cap rate at 413,576?
You know,
And your NOI, I mean?
My NOI is 413,576, yeah?
6 1/4, yeah.
Okay, so for the institutional portion, 6,617,221.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, I said
That's
wrong.
not the number you
Yeah,
used
yeah,
before.
you're right.
The next number?
Is 566,300.
That's the take
And
off.
that's on page, yeah, and that's, I didn't subtract that on this summary.
Yes.
It ought to be 6051, 6,051,000. That's what we
Yes.
subtract the 566. Thanks, no, thank you.
And
And
listen
that's
to this, too long.
my presentation, thank you.
Questions, Ryan?
Yeah, just on page 7 on the potential growth rent.
On the potential gross rent, yeah.
Yeah, is that the actual that they are paying?
That's the actual, yeah.
And how much is the subsidy, the limited subsidy? It's not included here?
The limited subsidy is included here, yeah.
It's already included.
It's included in this calculation, yeah. You can see it's included in this, the rent rolls and the financial statements.
That's all the questions I have, Chair.
Brent?
so on 1 Bolton Bay,
Yeah.
on 601 Osborne, it
Yeah.
was an older building. You used a 54.3% expense ratio? Or
The act-
53.2?
Those are based on actuals, so we're not modeling anything, we're using what is submitted to us on the financials. Yeah.
So- And that one was masonry bearing walls.
Yeah.
This one's masonry bearing walls. And it's newer,
Yeah.
and you're using a 64.8%?
Expense ratio.
Expense
Based
ratio.
on actuals, yeah. Those are,
What's the problem with this building?
it's,
And I can tell you, I've been there.
oh, okay.
I was the election officer there last year.
Oh, okay. I'm not sure. Maybe you could shed some light on it for us.
Okay, well,
Yeah, we could.
I'll leave my questions then.
Lori?
I have no questions at this point, thanks.
The limited subsidy, how many units do they have that are subsidized? But because when they built it, there's an X amount that have to be units.
Yeah.
Is it 40 units on this one?
It's not a lot, I had it here in the rent roll. Got 8 so far, on the 6th floor. Looks like 8.
8 units.
Yeah.
So it's minimal on this one.
It's minimal, yeah.
But the
It's not.
the
rent-
property itself is better maintained than most of the other ones, like the previous.
It could be, I mean, that could be the, give rise to that high expense ratio. Could be something else that I'm unaware of, but,
Okay, so there are 8 units that are subsidized.
Yes.
The revenue shows up in the
that's
revenue
in the
contract.
calculation.
So I just, when you go to limited subsidy,
Yeah.
you never know how many units. It could be 50%, could be 40, could be 10,
Yeah, it's
could
really
be 5.
here,
It
yeah.
all depends on how much they're putting in at initial investment, so. It'd be nice if some of that was included actually when you did these,
Okay.
when you did the contract.
Note of that?
It's helpful for explaining it.
For sure. I will,
I've got no further questions. So that'll conclude the matters on that one. Oh, we're just rolling along. The next one is 1042 Beardmore. And it's strictly about the assessed value. And you're up, Brian.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The next property has a file number 19-4194. The tax roll number of 030601-02500. It is located at 1043 Beardmore Boulevard. So dealing with the roll year of 2020 using reference date of April 1st, 2018, the assessed value is $10,176,000. It is a residential apartment with 2 buildings and 3 stories. Has an actual and effective year built of 1985, with 84 suites and 84 outdoor parking. This zone is C2, with a land area of 105,844 square feet, a land area of 29,737 square feet, a gross floor area of 89,211 square feet. On page 3 are the aerial photos of the subject property. And on page 4 is the income valuation summary. Here there are 84 total units, with an average monthly rent per unit of $1,049.47. Has a vacancy rate of 2.4%, an expense ratio of 50.72%, giving it a net operating income of $508,805. Using the capitalization rate of 5%, the capitalized income is $10,176,100. On page 5 are some rent comparables. They're all ranging from $1,035 up to $1,286 average. Oh, sorry, I'm looking at the gross floor area, sorry. The average monthly rent per unit for the rent comparables range from $1,115 up to $1,546. And right below it, the map of the subject property and comparable rents. Pages 6 and 7 are capitalization rate charts. Page 9 is the CMHC rental market report. From page 10 to page 13 is the 2017 income and expense information. That's my presentation, Mr. Chair.
Questions?
Yeah, just a few. Okay. So we've got an effective year built of 85 and an actual year built of 85. That would indicate that there's been no permitted work that would cause any kind of, would give rise to any effective age variance from the city's perspective. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And we have no basement area, so all storage would be off-site or in suite. Is that correct?
I'm not sure with the storage, but there's no basement area. Correct.
Okay, that's fine. Now, income value summary, is this all modeled?
These are not correct.
No overrides?
No, none.
One thing that jumps out to me, the market value per suite is $121,000. Does that not seem extremely high to you?
No.
No? Okay. That's fine. Now, okay, for your rent comps, do you think it's appropriate to use a high rise compared to a low rise?
I'm sorry.
For rent comp, do you think it's, if we're dealing with a low rise, correct?
You're dealing with 3 floors.
Right. That's a low rise, isn't it?
Yes.
And the high rise is 5 or more by valuation theory, isn't it?
Could be.
Okay. All right. That's fine. Now, what's interesting to me is you give us the rental rates for these comps. Would you have any sense of what the vacancy is in these apartments?
Which apartment?
Your rent comps. Comps 1 through 4. No idea?
No.
Do you think
I
that
don't
the
know.
rents and vacancy sort of work together if your rents are very high?
These are gross rents. So these are what's
Sure,
being asked
market
in the market.
rents. Right. Okay.
Particularly on these ones.
Okay, so no indication what the vacancy is any of these. Okay, that's fine. Now, are you aware that your first comp, that's Silverview Estates, that's for 55 plus, correct?
I don't know.
Okay. Are you aware that that building has an elevator?
No.
Okay. Number 2 is Arizona Plaza. Are you aware that that's a fully renovated asset?
No.
Okay. 770 Allegheny, that's called the Polo Club. That one has a pool. They've been renovated. They have a billiards room and a fitness room. Are you aware of that?
No.
All right. 70 Bison. Now that's an interesting one. Those are luxury apartments, right?
I'm not sure. I don't know.
Okay, and they advertise guest suites. Did you look into that at all? Now, if they have guest suites that are short-term stay, think of like almost like a hotel or an Airbnb, do you think that would drive that rate up extremely high? All right. Also, we talked about suite mix a little bit. This has no mix. This just has 84 two-bedroom apartments, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, and do you think that that's a positive or a negative in the eyes of the next potential purchaser?
Again, I don't know what the potential purchaser would be thinking about this. No, I don't know.
All right. Now, in terms of the CMHC, we only have two bedrooms, so it's pretty easy. We can look at the way they bracketed 75 to 89. Now, the city's model is suggesting that our rents are higher than the CMHC for an apartment from 1985. Does that make sense to you?
From 1985, 1,080 is what
No.
CMHC is suggesting. Is that correct? 1,080.
No, I'm looking at your page 9.
Yes.
Two bedrooms, 1975 to 1989, 1040 to 1080. Okay, so we're in the range. Okay, that's fine. Sorry, that's my mistake.
Okay.
But the owner is reporting 998 on their income sheet, correct? In your evidence.
Yes.
Okay, those are my questions. Thank you.
Lori,
I have no questions, thank you.
Fred,
I have no question.
I've got no questions. I will take presentation, Mr. Stewart.
1043 Beardmore Boulevard. Again, the building's built in 1985. It's 3 stories, and it's all 2 bedrooms, which is not typical. And there's 84 two-bedroom units. So this is the south side of Beardmore, and it's just west of Pembina. It's being used as an apartment building, multifamily res. Total gross floor area is approximately 89,211 square feet. And the site size, according to the city of Winnipeg, is 104,544 square feet. The city is suggesting a 2020 realty assessment of $10,176,000. We are suggesting that a value of $8,858,000 is more appropriate. Now, for the purposes of this exercise, we are disputing the assessor's capitalization rate of 5%. We have instead used a cap rate of 5.75% based on our study. So assets, barring any unforeseen circumstances or need for adjustment, built between 1980 and 1997, generally tend to carry a cap rate of 5.75, so that's what we've applied here. So based on our actual financials, and this is page 6 of my brief, we can see that the inclusive of vacancy, the potential gross market rents are $952,439. The model is suggesting $1,057,866. So we've started off at a bit of a gap to begin with. The model is overstating the potential income for this asset, I would suggest. Now, our effective gross income, after we account for miscellaneous, parking, and laundry, and the revenues that come from those streams, we're at $971,68. The assessor is still at $1,032,000. The assessment department has modeled an expense ratio of 50.7%. When we apply our actuals, we're lower than that. We're at 47.5. And what's interesting is at the end of this calculation, though we started relatively far apart, we come within $500-ish of each other. We're at $509,334. The city's at $508,805. Again, we've capitalized our value with a cap rate of 5.75%, giving us an indicated market value of $8,857,984. So we respectfully submit to this board that the value ought not to exceed a rounded value of $8,858,000 for this assessment cycle. I've included some photos in my appendices. You can see that these are not luxury. They're also on an active rail line. I believe the city recognizes that in the property details. But here's the general interiors, here to perusal, as well as the supporting financial statements and rentals. Thank you very much.
Ryan, question?
Yeah, on page 6,
Yeah.
the total average between 2015 to 2017 is higher than the subject stabilized NOI?
For the NOI?
Is that correct? Yeah, it looks like.
Well, that's a sum, right?
Yeah, net operating income average between 2015 to 2017 is higher at 523,651 compared to the subject stabilized, correct?
Yeah, but that's a sum, right? So we're taking the, so, okay, so you're talking about the number, the 523,651?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's an average of the NOIs for the previous 3 years, right? Now that 509 is the sum of 971,068 minus our actual expenses of 461, so that's a calculated number. So yes, that's correct, but that's what happens when we stabilize, right?
So all the questions are answered, Chair.
Right?
I don't have any questions.
Lori?
You're not showing any vacancy. Is that built into, deducted from rents?
Yeah, the way that they report, it's
Okay.
inclusive of the potential.
So it's come out of work?
Yeah.
Okay, I see. Okay, thanks.
And there are discounts there as well.
Yeah.
And that's interesting.
Thank you.
The city applied a 5.25 last year in, well, 2018,
Yeah.
but you had cut it off on
Yeah,
your...
we've always used 5.75.
And you sort of cut it off on your bottom of your page.
Yeah, I see that. I wrote it into mine. But yeah, the board is, the board has generally used a 5.5. We've always been at 5.75. The city's been at 5.25, and now we're seeing that it's lowering this.
But the last time the board gave you a 5.5.
That's right.
I've got no further questions. What are we doing? Next property, you want to take a break yet?
Oh, maybe let's do this one.
One more? I didn't jinx it. 2965 Pembina Highway, and amount of assessed value. Mr. Story, you're up.
It should be the.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Do you want to take the break?
No, thank you.
Okay.
Ryan, you're up. I'm sorry. Just trying to speed it up a little bit.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The next one is a file number 19-2140. There's a roll number of 0306031500. We're dealing with the roll year of 2020 using record date of April 1st, 2018. The assessed value is $9,833,000. We're dealing with the residential apartments with 2 buildings, 3 stories, actual years built and effective years built of 1971, 1972, with 90 suites, 96 outdoor parking stalls. It is zoned as residential multifamily with land area of 119,166 square feet, planned area of 25,578 square feet, and a gross floor area of 76,734 square feet. On page 3 are photos, aerial photos of the subject property. Page 4 is the income valuation summary. Again, we have 90 total units with an average monthly rent per unit of $975. We're using a vacancy rate of 2.4%, an expense ratio of 49.29%, giving it a net operating income of $521,161. Using the capitalization rate of 5.3%, the capitalized income is $9,833,226. On page 5 are some rent comparables. They're all ranging from $1,006 up to $1,447 average monthly rent per unit. Right below it is the map of the subject property and comparable rents. Pages 6 and 7 are some capitalization rate charts. And on page 9, the CMHC rental market report. And on page 10 is the 2017 income and expense information. That's my presentation, Mr. Chair.
Questions?
Yeah, thank you. Okay. You visited this property?
No.
Built between 71 and 72. Those are the effective age. Now, was one building built in 71 and the other was built in 72? Is that the idea?
I think probably it is, yes.
Okay. Again, no basement area.
No, unreported.
All right. Would you consider this an irregular lot?
So it's a bit irregular.
It's a bit irregular, okay. And an irregular lot would affect value on some level? Would you agree?
Well, no, I don't
No, you don't think so,
totally
okay.
agree on that one.
Okay.
Depends on how irregular it is.
All right. Now, this asset has 90 suites, predominantly one bedroom, but the market value per suite is $109,000. Does that not strike you as high?
No.
It doesn't. Okay. All of these inputs in your valuation summary, those are modeled, I'm going to assume. Is that correct?
Yes, they're all modeled.
Okay. And did you check them against the actual financials?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And did you choose your rent comps?
I did, yes.
Okay. Now, I guess the first one that jumped out at me was 2815 Pembina. That's called the spot on Pembina, correct?
I'm not sure, but it is 2015 built.
Pretty new. It's okay. It's fair to say that that's probably not comparable. Now, the other two that you have Markham Place has a pool, doesn't it?
I don't know.
Okay. And Ulster and Markham both have parking, covered parking, correct?
I'm not sure. I
I
don't
mean,
know.
people generally pay a premium for those amenities, would you say?
I'm not sure. It depends on the property manager and the owner. They can charge parking separate.
That's fine. All right. Okay. I suppose that's it. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Questions, Frank?
I have no questions.
Lori?
I have no questions either, thank you.
I'm still trying to figure. What's the cross street here?
On page,
I know we're on Kendall, but
It's right close to Garden Bridge, you know that turn.
just north of Dalhousie, on page 5, the blue dot, that's the subject property.
okay, I know where it is. Okay, I know where it is. What I was looking for? All looking for education. Now we can look.
All right, 2965 Pembina Highway, 3-story building built in 72, 8 bachelor suites, 58 one-bedrooms, 24 two-bedrooms. Now, this is a 2-building complex, as we've mentioned. Neither have basements, and that's the west side of Pembina between Killarney to the north and Newdale to the south. So we're presently using this asset as a multiple-family residential building. Gross floor area is approximately 76,734 square feet. There are 96 outdoor parking stalls. Now, this is an irregularly shaped site, and the size is approximately 117,612 square feet, and it is zoned RM FM. For the purposes of this report, the assessor is using a capitalization rate of 5.3%. We have used a rate of 6%. That's again for the bracket of 1960 to 1979, leading us to an indicated market value for this cycle of $8,294,000. We'll do page 6. I have my income workup again. Once again, based on actuals. Now there is, we are seeing the tendency for higher vacancy in this building. So we've let's start from the potential gross market rents. We're at $1,006,234. The assessor's at $1,053,000. If we look at our vacancy, excuse me, over the past 3 years, we see We see something of a trend upwards. Now again, this is a very competitive apartment market in this part of town, so it's not terribly surprising, and there's some new product coming on. And then if we look at our, the other thing, if we look at our income, this doesn't appear to be a function of backfilling and updating the suites. This appears to be just actual market behavior. So we've stabilized our vacancy at 8%, where the city is modeled at 2.4%. That gives us an effective gross rent of $925,735. Again, we account for the fact that we're picking up extra revenue from laundry and parking, bringing us to an EGI, excuse me, of $973,003. We've applied our actual expenses based on our submissions from the owner, and we've stabilized them into what we'll call the most typical year in order to come to our value, or our NOI, I should say. We come to an expense ratio of 48.9%. The city's model is imputing 49.3%. So we come to an NOI of $497,646, where the city is at $521,161. Again, where we differ here is on the cap rate. We are at 6% cap. The city is at 5.3. So when we apply our 6% cap, we come to a indicated market value, for the 2020 assessment cycle of $8,294,000, and we respectfully submit that this board adjust that assessment to better reflect the economic realities of this building. I've got some photos here of the interiors. You can see that they've been refreshed. These are recent marketing photos taken from the internet, driven by the property to get a sense of it. As early as yesterday. Now, the other thing you can see in our financials is that they're not huge, but there are a number of discounts. So that would be atypical, and I did sort of flag that to see what's going on. And then there are vacant suites as well. So we do see a trend upwards in the vacancy. We tried to capture that in our stabilized workup. And again, we suggest that the value ought not to exceed $8,294,000 for this site. Thank you very much.
Ryan?
Yes, page 6.
Yep.
Average vacancy percent of 8%.
Yeah.
Was that caused by turnover or a market?
No, that's what I'm saying. It doesn't appear to be, because our gross rents are going up. And this is something that I mentioned earlier. When we look at rent comps, it's hard to look at rental comps without getting a sense of what the vacancy is, because I think that those two things are functions of one another. If your rent's very high, your vacancy is likely to go up. If your rent's very low, your vacancy is likely to go down. So that's common sense. But when you see that our potential gross rents are increasing in 2017, but so are our bad debts and discounts, that would not be. I don't think that's a renovation and backfilling issue. I think that's a market vacancy problem. Now, the other thing that we're seeing is these assets built in the 70s. Their obsolescence speeds up when new product comes up to the market. We're also down this stretch of Pembina, so there's a competitive element there to get tenants, and that's largely that's the university crowd effectively. So it doesn't surprise me that the vacancy is higher here, and it is appropriate to capture it somewhere in this calculation. But 2.4 is too low.
Yeah, but the repair and maintenance, the actuals from 15 to 17 seem to be creeping up and way higher.
Yeah,
which
you
suggests
stabilize that at $1,500 per suite, which is well within the reasonable range for.
you stabilized it at 142,000 per. Yeah, that's correct.
That's $1,581 per suite, which is bang on. So
if we look at the actual, you based your 8% on the averages of 15 to 17. Is that safe to assume?
yeah, that's what it is.
And
we're seeing it creep up. So if we saw one atypical year, we'd say, well, maybe there was some work going on, maybe something was happening. But the alarming trend is that our rents are going up, and so is our vacancy. Again, that doesn't indicate to me that that's a backfill. Over maybe in the next couple of years, we'll go even higher if it looks to be a long-term chronic issue. Right now, we're capturing it at 8%.
But then the repair maintenance is so high that it could lead to some renovations. That's why it's the actual vacancy is really high, and it takes a lot longer to fill.
Yeah, I don't know, I mean, the repair and maintenance is very high in 16, and the vacancy is higher, to be certain, than 15. But the repair and maintenance is coming back down in 17, and the vacancy is still going up. So I see this as an issue. I don't think this is a backfilling renovation issue. 8% might be aggressive, but 2.4% is certainly far too low.
That's all the questions I have, Mr. Chair.
Right?
So has it been renovated?
Well, you can see there's been some work done here based on the current photos, but I would say that this isn't, they're not,
Are these cabinets 1970 vintage?
no, that's what I'm saying, they are redone, but I wouldn't say that they're high-grade finishings, they're clearly refreshed. So, but I think that is what owners need to do to stay competitive in that market, to be certain.
Well, and I think Ryan asked the question about the higher maintenance, repair and maintenance, so
Yeah.
I'm done.
Lori?
No questions there.
And the cap rate, you pulled it right from your report?
It's from our table, not from our study,
So was it 6%?
6%.
You didn't adjust it?
Did not adjust it, no, it's a well-maintained building, it doesn't require any adjustment up or down. I think 6% is probably appropriate for a building built in 1972. That's what our study would indicate.
Good enough? Okay. We're going to take a 5-minute break. And we'll come back. We're doing so well.
We're clipping along here.
Next property is 1616 Pembina Highway. When you are ready, Ryan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The next property has a file number of 19-3470. Has a roll number 0308005100. It is located at 1616 Pembina Highway. We're dealing with the roll year of 2020 using a reference date of April 1st, 2018. The assessed value is $1,846,000. The property is a residential apartment with one building, 2 stories, and an actual and effective year built of 1960. There are 23 units or suites with 22 outdoor parking. It is zoned as residential multi-family with a land area of 20,888 square feet, planned area of 6,937 square feet, with basement of 6,937 square feet, a gross floor area of 20,811 square feet. On page 3 are a couple of aerial photos of the subject property. On page 4 is the income valuation summary. Property has 23 units with an average monthly rent per unit of $780.58. We're using vacancy rate of 2.4%, an expense ratio of 53.48%, giving it a net operating income of $97,817. With a capitalization rate of 5.3%, the capitalized income is $1,845,604. On page 5 are some rent comparables. They are all ranging from $888 up to $970 average monthly rent per unit. Pages 6 and 7 are the capitalization rate charts. On page 9 is the single issue rental market report as of October 2017. And from page 10 to page 12 is the 2017 income and expense information for the subject property. And that's my presentation, Mr. Chair.
Questions, Mr. Story?
Yes, okay. So, this building was built in 1960 and no work has been done to affect its effective year built, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. You taking a drive by this building?
I didn't inspect the property, no.
You did not? Okay. And it's, just so we're clear, there's two buildings here, we're just talking about one of them. They effectively form one economic unit. Is that correct?
We're dealing with one roll number here, and which has one
No,
building.
that's okay. Now, for your rent comps, appears that we're much lower. Now, are you saying that these are comparable buildings, but we're just achieving a much lower rent?
I'm sorry.
Well, okay, so you've got rent comps here, but I noticed that
Yeah.
your rent comps, yeah. So you've got one here that's $200 a month, that's higher, even though the suite mix isn't that different. So I suppose if we're talking about the cap rate, that's the general crux of for the most part, the crux of our arguments today. We're talking about cap rate. So if there's three parts of cap rates to an investor, and the cap rate is the numerical expression of risk. We have the principle of anticipation. So how do we think this asset's going to appreciate in the future? We've got the question of the durability of the income stream or the predictability of the income stream. And then, of course, we have the option to just invest in something else that would be less risky. So do you think that if I see rents as an investor, and ours are this low against comparables, do you think that would give me a sense of confidence in this building or a sense of uneasiness?
I'm not sure.
Okay, those are my questions. Thank you.
Lori?
I have no questions.
Frank?
We're just talking about the one building. Okay.
Correct.
That was it.
That's it. Let's move on to your presentation.
Okay, 1616 covenant. Now, we are just talking about 1616, but I will suggest that it is forming one economic unit with 1616 and 1626. They're sort of twin buildings, but ours is the larger one of the two, but they're same ownership. They're built in the same time. So, we're built in 1960, 2.5-story walk-up, 11 one-bedrooms, 12 two-bedrooms. The city is suggesting a value of $1,846,000. We're suggesting $1,584,000, and I believe this is largely based on the cap rate. It is. Our NOI is within a couple $1,000s. So we're on the east side of Pembina, highway at Manahan Avenue, and according to the Department of Records, the site size is 20,888 square feet, and zoned RMFM. Okay. Now the assessor is using a cap rate of 5.3%. We are saying that it's more appropriate for an asset of this vintage, 1960, based on our study, to apply a cap rate of 6%. So now if we go to my income workup, I will point out that we are starting at roughly the same spot. We're at $210,000. The department's at $215,000 as modeled. Ours is based on actuals, based on financials submitted. And then once we account for the revenue that's generated by parking, we are within $63 of each other on effective gross income. Now, the city models their expenses. We use actuals. They're using a rate of 53.5. The actual number comes out to 54.8%, so we're well within range there as well. So again, the material difference is the fact that we're using a 6% cap and the city's at 5.3. And when we capitalize our NOI at $95,026, we come to an indicated market value of $1,583,774. So I would respectfully submit that this board adjust this value for the 2020 realty assessment cycle to reflect the actual market performance of this asset with a value of $1,584,000. I've got some photos here. You can see that there's suites are maintained, some new flooring, tiling the washrooms. Kitchens look fairly utilitarian. That's reflected, I think, in rents. And then we also have our income expense that supports our conclusion of value based on our workup. Thank you very much.
Ryan?
No questions for now, Mr. Chair.
Brent?
Just an odd question. Is the sister building under appeal?
I would imagine it is, yeah. But they use basically the same, I say the wrong thing, but I believe they're using a different cap rate based on the fact that it's smaller. Right, this is the larger one, there's a smaller one, so they're exactly the same, all the inputs are the same, the expense ratio is the same, but the model adjusts for size. So, kind of interesting, but I haven't appealed yet, but I might wait out the next round.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks.
Good?
No questions, thank you.
And I've got none, so let's move on to the next one. 3201, Grant. Amount of assessed value. Ryan, when you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Next property has a file number of 19-2511. Has a roll number of 0100119800. It is located at 3201 Grant Avenue. We're dealing with the roll year of 2020, using reference date of April 1st, 2018. The assessed value is $7,792,000. It is a res app, or apartments, with one building, 3 stories, with an actual and effective year built of 1974, with a total number of suites of 60 and an outdoor parking stalls of 67. It is zoned as residential multifamily, with a land area of 68,016 square feet, land area of 16,371 square feet, and a gross floor area of 49,113 square feet. On page 3 are a couple of subject properties photos. And on page 4 is the income valuation summary. Again, there are 60 units and an average monthly rent per unit of $1,068.53. A vacancy rate of 2.4%, and effective and an expense ratio of 45%, giving it a net operating income of $412,983. Using the capitalization rate of 5.3%, the capitalized income is $7,792,132. On page 5 are some rent comparables, and they're all ranging from $1,005 up to $1,351 average monthly rent per unit. And just below it is the map of the subject property and comparable rents. On page 6 and 7 are the capitalization rate charts. Page 9 is the CMHC rental market report, and on page 10 is 2017 income and expense information for the subject property. And that's my presentation, Mr. Chair.
Questions, Mr. Story?
Yeah, just a couple here. Just as a kind of interest, this income and expense information, this is not the full submission, correct?
I don't think so, no.
Okay. That's the use of the entire submission, just for the sake of not isolating things. Okay, so this building was built in 74, and the effective year is 74 as well, correct?
Yes, correct.
And the city's suggesting that this assessment ought to be $1 million higher than the last cycle, is that correct?
Again, it's a new reassessment cycle, and the previous assessment, I'm not sure what happened on that one.
Did you,
or not.
Okay, were there any work permits or anything that you could see that would give rise to an adjustment in value, or is it just based on market?
Again, it may or may not have an appeal or anything. I'm not sure what happened during the previous assessment.
Okay. Now this is Charleswood, right?
I'm sorry?
This asset's in Charleswood, is it not?
Yes.
Okay. And do you know what the average year-over-year increases or decreases for properties of this class in Charleswood?
No.
Okay. That's fine. And these have no basement as well, is that correct?
No.
Okay. The income valuation model, again, I'll ask you, this is one of the first things that always jumps out at me, that market value per suite is almost $130,000 per suite here. Do you think that's appropriate?
Yes.
Okay. All of these inputs are modeled, is that correct?
Yes, they're all modeled.
Now the expense rate is 45%. Sometimes when we see a round number like that, it would indicate that somebody had overridden the model. Is that overridden, or is that?
No.
That's a coincidence?
Yes.
Okay. And the 5.3% cap rate is modeled as well?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Onto your rent comps. Now, you haven't visited this site, have you?
No.
Okay. So you don't have a general sense of the condition?
No.
Okay. Subject 1 is fully renovated. Are you aware of that?
No.
From Lanark. That's in River Heights, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay. And Comp 1 and Comp 3 are owned by the same owner, and they're both renovated, you call them maybe luxury, in there in River Heights. So do you think that's appropriate to use that for a generally unimproved older asset in Charleswood?
Well, effective year built would say it. It's 1987, so I'm not sure.
So we chose them based on the vintage?
Yes.
Okay. Blackstill is in the subject area, but it's also been renovated. Are you aware of that?
No.
No. Okay. And I suppose that's it. Those are my questions. Thank you.
Brent?
No questions.
Lori?
No questions either.
I've had no questions. Let's move on to the presentation.
Thank you very much. 3201 Grant Avenue. This is a 3-story walk-up built in 1974. It's located in Charleswood. We've got 60 units, 9 bachelor suites, 31 bedrooms, and 21 2-bedroom units. So it's got appears to be a pretty nice suite mix, but it is an older asset. Total gross floor area is 49,113 square feet, and we have 67 outdoor parking stalls. So again, we're in the northwest corner of Cathcart and Grant, and that's the Varsity View neighborhood cluster in Charleswood again. Okay, so something I noticed on my the aerial view, all of the other older apartment assets, they've all been redone to a great degree. So this one sort of sticks out. It looks almost as though it's the next one to be reno. But we are looking at the income in place of 2018, so it's a sort of an interesting experiment. So we have the assessor using a 5.3% cap. We're disputing that for the purposes of this report. We've instead used a capitalization rate of 6% based on our study. Again, this asset falls in on our table between 1960 and 1979, and we've not adjusted it for any anomalies. So, if you come with me to my income statement, again, we've stabilized what we call a typical year's income, and then we've put that in contrast to the assessor's workup. Now we start off on a different foot from the assessor. They're suggesting 769,342, and we're showing with our actual financials that the rents in place are 654,539. Again, based on the lower rents, we don't appear to have a vacancy problem. It's in and around 1%, occasionally jumps to 2%. So the model's 2.4% seems reasonable for capitalizing that into perpetuity. Now again, we recognize that there's income that comes by way of laundry and parking, giving us an effective gross income of 686,164, while the assessor is at a modeled EGI of 758,78. Now, when we go to our expenses, we've stabilized them, and we come to a rate of 44.5%, and the model is at 45%, so that's we're in the ballpark, to be certain. But our net operating income is $380,941. The city is at $412,983. So when we capitalize our net operating income with a 6% cap, we come to an indicated value of $6,349,019 for this assessment cycle. So again, we would ask that this board adjust this assessment to reflect the market reality of this asset, and that the assessment ought not to exceed $6,349,000. I've included some photos. These are marketing photos. I was there yesterday. I did make some field notes that there's some rust now on these balconies that aren't visible. The windows appear to be, I didn't check them, they appear to be single pane. There's a great deal of frost in them, which would indicate a window problem or potentially a moisture problem. But I did make those notes while I was out there yesterday, and you can see the asset is true to its vintage. It's a classic 1960s, 1970s three-story walk-up, and so we've treated it appropriately with the adjusted cap rate, and it's my presentation. Thank you.
Brian?
No questions for now, Mr. Chair.
Lori?
No questions, thank you.
Brent?
Oh, no questions.
Got none. Let's move on to the next property, 21 Newdale.
The next property has a file number of 19-2772. It has a roll number of 030603000100. It is located at 21 Newdale Avenue. We're dealing with the roll year of 2020 using reference date of April 1st, 2018. The assessed value is $7,596,000. It has one building, 5 stories, with an actual and effective year built of 1976. Has 68 suites with 68 outdoor parking. It is zoned as residential multifamily with a land area of 88,664 square feet, a planned area of 13,135 square feet, and a gross floor area of 66,175 square feet. On page 2, we have a registered sale. It was registered on May 7th, Mr. Chair, 2018. And it's up for the board to keep weight on that one. And we are not sure, we're pretty confident that the sale happened a few weeks prior to this, and it's a registration date that's in here, Mr. Chair. Page 3, there are a couple of aerial photos of the subject property. On page 4 is the income valuation summary. There are 68 total units with average monthly rent per unit of $967.70, a vacancy rate of 2.4%, and an expense ratio of 50.72%, giving it a net operating income of $379,797. Using the cap rate of 5%, the capitalized income is $7,595,940. On page 5 are some rent comparables. They are ranging from $970 up to $1,447 average monthly rent per unit. Right below it is the map of the subject property and the comparable rents. On pages 6 and 7 are the capitalization rate charts. On page 9 is the CMHC rental market report. Beginning of page 10, the last page is the 2017 income and expense information. And that's my presentation, Mr. Chair.
Is it? It's no longer Maricopa Housing?
Yeah, no, it is. I don't know. It's Sam Properties.
It's not Maricopa.
Oh, it's not no, I guess that's, yeah.
So
So it's not Manitoba Housing, it's now SAM Properties Holding Inc.
So are you representing them then?
Well, we represent both of them, so it's,
Will you represent both of them?
we did, yeah, they're both residents.
Okay. Question?
Yes, I have questions. Yeah. Okay. Now, this is social housing, correct?
That's right.
Okay. It's subsidized, correct?
Its ability to pay.
Ability to pay, so that's subsidized, right? So that's called rent geared to income.
Yeah, that's
We
right.
mentioned everything about the limited dividend agreement, so I won't harp on that. But just so we're aware, this is a shelter resource for, and now you mentioned a sale, that's post-reference though, correct?
It is registration date, not a sale date. Meaning,
Okay.
the sale date could have happened way prior to that,
Okay.
because it takes a few weeks to register a sale.
That's fine. But you recognize that this transferred ownership from one social welfare agency to the other, so would you consider that a market transaction?
They're not affiliates. They don't know each other, so
They don't know each other.
They're not affiliated companies or organizations.
Did you look into that? Are you sure about that?
Well, that's a government is not affiliated to Sam Properties. That's what I'm aware of. But
Okay. But it's safe to say that this was not purchased for, as an adventuring trade or commerce, was it?
I don't know what the motive.
From one
I don't know what the
social
interest.
welfare agency to the other.
I don't know the interest or the motive.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, are you familiar with this area?
Yes.
You are. Okay, so you're aware that this is next to a giant Manitoba Housing row house complex, is that correct?
My friend and I, yes.
Yes. Okay. Do you think that's a value positive or value negative to a next prudent purchaser who purchases the asset for the as an adventure in trade or commerce?
I cannot speak to any prudent investor or any market investor.
Okay, but
I
to be
don't
clear,
know.
we're talking about market value today, correct?
Yes.
Okay, that's fine. This asset was built in '76 and it's had no permitted work that the city is aware of in order to affect its effective useful economic life. Is that correct?
None that I'm aware of, no.
Okay, so you have no basement area. It's fine. The average monthly rent per unit, that must be modeled, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Have you reviewed the financials?
Yes.
Okay. And after reviewing the financials and seeing that there's been no economic profit in this asset since 1976, you think a market value per suite of $111,000 is appropriate?
Yes.
And you think a cap rate of 5% is appropriate?
Yes.
Okay. Make sure. Now for your rent comps, well, again, we've got the spot on Pembina. Can we agree that that's probably not a comparable rent comp for this asset?
Which one?
It's comp 3, that's built in 2015, that's a brand new.
It's a brand new, yeah, it's brand new, or newer.
Okay. And Martin Place, we've discussed that already, that's a full rent-out, correct?
I have no information on that one.
Okay, so you didn't look into these comps to see if they were appropriate?
If they're what?
Appropriate? They were appropriate to compare to our subject?
That's what they're actually charging, so it's just...
No, but are they appropriate? Okay, that's fine. Yeah, those are my questions, thank you.
Brett?
Well, I'm trying to get my head around the relationship between MHRC
Yeah.
and SAM Properties. For example, your brief references Manitoba Housing and Renewal
No,
Corporation.
it should be Sound Properties, that's,
And the application, I assume, reads SAM Properties.
that's right. Yeah, it's Sound Properties, this would be
Both incorporated companies.
both incorporated companies, but both social welfare.
Well, it's fine of what they may do, but I'm just wondering what the authorization.
Yeah, no, they're clients of both of ours. This is Sound Properties authorized us. On this one, in the last cycle, it would be Manitoba Housing, so it would be a typo on the cover page based on templating this brief from the last cycle.
So, Mr. Chair, if we can look at the application, I just want to be
Yep.
sure. Okay, this is SAM Properties. That's fine. No further questions.
That's why I
Thank you,
asked.
sir.
That's why I asked. All right.
No questions at this point, thanks.
On with your presentation.
Okay. All right. 21 Newdale Avenue. This is the north side of Newdale. It's west of Pembina. We've got a 5-story structure built in 1976. It's being used as a social housing resource. And again, it did transfer from Manitoba Housing to Sound Properties, so any reference to Manitoba Housing, I believe, is in error, and that should be Sound Properties. Okay. Again, built in 1976, 8 one-bedrooms, 62 bedrooms. The site size, according to the City of Winnipeg, is 2 acres, and it's zoned to RMFS, that's rural multifamily, residential multifamily, I should say. And we have 68 suites, as I said, 8 one-bedrooms and 62 bedrooms. The city is using a cap rate of 5%. We're using a cap rate of 6.5%, and as I've mentioned previously with these assets, we baseline the 6% based on our study, and then we add an upward adjustment for the social housing to capture the reality of social housing, 50 basis point adjustment, giving us a cap rate of 6.5. Now, because these are subsidized rents and we don't have any actual market rents, we begin with accepting the potential market gross rents based on how the city's modeling it, and that's in line with CMHC, so we're comfortable with that. Our effective gross income, of course, is the same, but once we apply our actual expenses, we start to differ slightly, though not by much. The assessor is suggesting an expense ratio of 50.7%. Our actuals are indicating 49.6%. So we actually end up with a higher NOI than the city's model. They're saying 379,797. We're suggesting 388,293. But again, the material difference here is that we're applying a cap rate of 6.5%, which gives us an indicated market value of $5,973,741. So we are requesting a rounded value for this site of $5,974,000. In my appendices, I've included a photo of this is the subject. There is an active area right behind it. And this is a fairly large commercial row house, managed housing asset. And it's in the news. There's a bit of there's trouble, to say the least, and it's quite large. Okay. And then again, I've got some income and expense submissions here, should you wish to peruse them. And again, we ask that the board respectfully adjust this assessment to $5,974,000. Thank you.
Right.
No questions from Mr. Chair.
Right.
I have no questions.
Lori?
I just have a quick question. This property on the assessor's brief, there was that registration of the sale for $7.7 million.
Yes.
So even though it's social housing,
Right.
MHRC to
Right.
SAM, which I guess are both agencies,
Yep.
what would the requirements be? Like, would there have had to have been an appraisal?
I would imagine, but they would do something like an appraisal based on the way that they approach an appraisal for this sort of asset is different than the way that we approach an assessment for taxation purposes. So I'm not surprised that it's higher than what we're coming to from market, but it's sort of a different methodology. So I don't know. I don't know the details of it. I haven't seen an appraisal on it. I don't know if the city has factored that in when creating the assessment, but I would suggest that that doesn't equate to an arm's length sale, and it certainly doesn't equate to a market transaction. So that's how I would view that. And it is post-reference, but regardless, even if it were a month earlier, I would still say that it's not an indicator of fair market value, especially to an investor who's looking to reposition this as an income-producing asset.
And just one other quick question.
Sure.
The pictures you shared, they have the social housing, like the MHRC social housing on the
Yeah,
one
it's a
side.
huge amount of housing.
And on the other side, what's on the other side? Wasn't any of these other properties on Pembina that you shared with us earlier?
You know what? There's actually, there's a train track that goes back here. It's just there, and then there's a parking lot. They have a little, they've got a shed for, I suppose, the groundskeeping or whatever, and then they have a little kind of older play structure type thing for the kids, I suppose. And then, there are apartment blocks behind here. So, and there's a little strip mall. Yeah, it's got a bunch of.
Then it's Pembina Highway.
Then it's Pembina Highway.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
All done? I can't bring it, we'll call it out on that. We're done on that one. Let's move to the last one, 251 Edgeland Boulevard, and we removed your liability taxation classification to do that. So we're just dealing with the low assessed value. Ryan, when you are ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The last property has a file number of 19-3662. Has a roll number of 120-738-5000. It is located at 251 Edgeland Boulevard. We're dealing with the roll year of 2020 using reference date of April 1st, 2018. The total assessed value is $7,484,000. There are two classification and liabilities on this property. The first one is a 20G. It has an assessed value of $7,161,000. And the next classification is 40E, which has an assessed value of $323,000. It is a residential apartment with one building, 13 stories, an actual year and effective year built of 1973, with 119 suites and 71 outdoor parking stalls. It is zoned as residential multifamily with a land area of 55,873 square feet, a planned area of 7,135 square feet, and a basement area of 4,208 square feet, with a gross floor area of 72,207 square feet. On page 3 are a couple of aerial photos for the subject property. And on page 4 is the income valuation summary. And there are two split income valuation summary. The first one is the apartment has an average monthly rent of $631.27 and 119 units. It has a vacancy rate of 2.4%, an expense ratio of 56.86%, giving a net operating income of $379,554. Using the capitalization rate of 5.3%, we have a capitalized income of $7,161,396. The second income valuation workup is the retail side. It is the 40E section. It has a gross potential rent of $27,017, a vacancy rate of 6%, a shortfall rate of $6.50, and an expense rate of 2%, giving it a net operating income of $23,934. Using the capitalization rate of 7.4%, the capitalized income is $323,432. On the retail, which is a 40E, Mr. Chair, is I believe it is a daycare, based on our records. And on page 5 are some rent comparables for the apartment. They are all ranging from $684 up to $1,025 average monthly rent per unit. Right below it is the map of the subject property and comparable rents. Pages 6 and 7 are capitalization rate charts. On page 9 is the CMHC rental market report. And begin page 10 to page 12 is the 2017 income and expense information of the subject property. That's my presentation, Mr. Chair.
Questions?
Yeah, thank you. Okay, now, this is a social housing asset as well, correct?
It's owned by Manitoba Housing, so probably is. I'm not 100% sure.
Okay, it's fair to say if Manitoba Housing owns it, it's social housing. Now, again, we've touched on limited dividend projects and MERB. Do you think that limited dividend projects built in the 1970s would have a lower quality construction than other assets that were meant to compete in the market of a similar vintage?
I don't know. All I know is they have to maintain a certain standards for their properties, so I'm not sure if
And have you ever been to
they're
this building?
inferior. I'm sorry?
Have you ever been to this building?
No, I wasn't able to inspect.
It's behind the Safeway in Tuxedo. Now, did you look at a photo of this building outside the ones in your brief?
Yes.
Okay. Did you notice that each window has a window-mounted air conditioning unit in it?
Yes, looks like it.
Okay, so that would indicate to us that this building doesn't have any air conditioning, correct?
There's a split type attached to each unit, so or each window, so I'm not sure if
Safe to assume
that's not an air conditioning.
Okay. And no balconies, small windows, correct?
I'm sorry?
No. The building has no balconies. It's got very small windows. Is that correct?
No balconies, yeah.
Okay. Now, I'll ask you again about the suite sizes. Did you look into this to see if these are typical bachelors in one bedrooms, or do you think these are more like bachelorettes or studios?
No, I don't know without seeing it.
Okay. But typically, these assets built in this era, for the purposes of social housing, would have smaller suites than the market would generally demand. Would you agree with that?
I couldn't agree with that. I don't know what the intent is. I don't know if it was really intended to be built that way, so I couldn't agree with that.
Okay, that's fine. Now, we do your value summary. Now, just to be clear, we are not disputing the value of the daycare. We're just talking about the apartment component. Now, so for the apartment component, these are all modeled. Every input here is modeled. Is that correct?
Yes, they're all model driven.
Okay, and just one last time. Does the model take into account limited dividends, social housing, suite sizes, or suite mix?
The model accounts for whatever is in the market, whatever is in submitted to us in the income and expense mailing.
Okay. All right. Okay, so did you pick these rent comps on page 5?
I did.
You picked them?
Yes.
Can I ask you why you picked 2 in downtown?
Well, I was looking more on I'm trying to look for the perfect suite mix, but there's no such thing as perfect suite mix.
You're looking for suite mix. Okay, so because you used Holiday Towers and then you used the Princeton on Broadway and Donald. Is that correct?
I don't know what they're called. They're just addresses here.
Okay. And then you've got one on St. James. Well, I guess you probably don't know. Do you know? It seems like that's more than twice the size on the gross floor area per unit. Do you think that's a reasonable comp then?
It's bigger. Yeah.
Okay. That's fine. And again, none of these are Manitoba housing or social housing conversions or anything like that. These are assets that are competing on free and open market. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, there are 2 components in that question. So
I'm asking if any of these are partially subsidized, fully subsidized.
None of them.
Do they have a history of being social housing that were converted to?
I don't think so.
No? Okay. Those are my questions. Thanks.
Brent,
I have no questions.
Lori,
No questions, thank you.
how big is that daycare?
It looks like we were talking about those common areas for seniors. I think that's what this used to be. That's the layout. I can't confirm it, but that was the sense that I had. It's not large.
That's small.
Yeah, it's not that large. And they may use part of the kind of main room. There's another sort of an extension that comes off of it, so I'm not.
So that's section. When did they put the daycare in here? When they did the changeover?
Now, I looked back into our files into 16, and I believe it was there then, so I don't know. But I think it's changed names, actually. It's called a early learning center now, as opposed to the daycare, so it may be a different operation out of it. I'm not sure off the top of my head. We didn't dispute it, so I didn't dive too deep into it.
Anything further to add?
Nope. Nope, it's my shot now? Yeah. Okay, 251 Edgeland, again.
If you have questions, usually give us everything that you need. Anyway.
I'll try to be thorough. Okay, so this is a Manitoba housing asset, 14 stories, built in 1973. Again, we've established there's an exempt daycare portion that's not being disputed today. We are, however, disputing the residential portion. The city is implying that the value of $7,161,000 is appropriate. We're disputing this and saying that a more reasonable value is $5,930,000. Okay, and again, the subject property is at 251 Edgeland. It's 14 stories. It's subsidized. It is seniors housing, which is important to recognize as well, which give rise to the smaller suites, which are typical of subsidized seniors housing. Now we're on the east side of Edgeland between Corydon and Tuxedo, and we're directly adjacent to the back of that strip mall where the Safeway is. So The site is rectangular, and according to the City of Winnipeg records, it's approximately 1.3 acres, and it's zoned RMFS. Okay, now the city is aggressively low again with their cap rate of 5.3. We're suggesting that a rate of 6.5 ought to be applied. And again, this is based on the fact that it is social housing, so that merits a 50 basis point adjustment to our baseline cap rate of 6%. Now I have this is much like it's quite like Fred Tipping actually in terms of the suite sizes. They range from 327 square feet to 654 on the higher side, with the bachelors, the mediums being at 431. So not typical of the market, but typical of seniors housing. Okay, so we've got subsidized rents, so we have to go with the potential gross market rents put forth by the city, but we will use our own expenses. Now, we are very, very close on this one. We're saying that our actual expenses indicate 56.2% as a ratio. The model for the city is saying 56.9, giving us a higher NOI than the city. We're at 385,468, where the model is suggesting 379,554. And again, to account for the age, the social housing use, the small suites, no economic profit, we are suggesting that a cap rate of 6.5 is appropriate, which gives us an indicated market value on the residential portion alone of $5,930,000. So when we apply that to our undisputed rate on the daycare, we end up with an indicated market value of $5,962,000.
No, you got it. It's 6,253,000.
6,253,000.
Can't see math.
Good math.
Yeah, thanks.
We got your number.
You got it. Okay, thank you very much.
You don't have to punch in that yet. Was that it?
That's it. Thank
Brian.
you very much.
No questions, Mr. Chair.
Brent?
No questions.
Lori?
No questions, thanks.
And I've got none. Thank you very much. Have a great day. This concludes the matters for today.
Thank you very much.